Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Hey, if you've been with us any length of time, you've joined us on one of these, you know how we always start right here. Let us know that you are here. Jump inside of the chat. I noticed that the chat's misbehaving a little bit over here, but hopefully it doesn't mean that I can't see what you guys are posting in there or whatever. You know what? Technology, as I've said before, is amazing when it works. It's kind of frustrating when it does not work. So hopefully I'm able to see. No, it looks like there's comments coming in over here, and I can't actually see it inside of what a bummer. I can't see your stuff in here. Let me try to do one thing. Hopefully I won't disappear completely, but I so want your comments in the chat. I'm gonna hit a refresh over here. So I hit a refresh and we'll see if I can begin to see your chat comments. And hey, if you already put a comment in, I'm not able to see it over here yet. So if you throw it in there again, do us a huge favor and jump inside of the chat widget and say hello. Tell us where you're joining us from. One thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on. Um, and who else do I see in here? Deborah, who's joining us from British Columbia, Canada. Jones joining us from California. No, I'm having to pop it in over. I'm having to pop in over on the page just to be able to see it. And yes, there we go. Joan joining us from Bakersfield. Yes, we are back. Bobby's joining us from California. Excited about the topic tonight. So good. Anybody else like to say hello if you're just joining us? I just got our technology thing fixed really quickly. So just jump inside of the comments. It's always important. It does us a huge favor. One is it tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. Not only that you're watching, but that you're commenting. But just a huge favor and like this post and share it. Those are big, big, valuable things that we want to help people. So we want to do valuable things. And so if you let us know that we are, then we can make sure that this gets in front of more people. Shannon saying hello. There's Harvey, excited about 2 new clients signed and a new site transaction on the website from Paul. So good. Sierra saying hello, joining us from Tampa. If you're just making it in before I jump in, it's always important for me to interact with you guys. We're not just doing this just to have something to talk about on a Monday. It's about interacting with you. And also, I've got some exciting news for tonight that I get to share at the end of this. So it's going to be really good. Um, Shannon is joining us from outside of Washington, D.C. Good, good. I'm going to have a sip of my tea really quick. I'm not much of a tea drinker, but my throat was a little bit scratchy earlier. So I'm just trying to spare everybody that. Anybody else like to say hello to us? About to jump in. This is a new series. I'm pretty stoked about it, and it's going to carry us through at least the next month. And I think it's going to be super helpful for people. Awesome. Well, with no other delay, let's go ahead and jump in. Like I said, we're going to start this new series. I was thinking about the end of the year. And honestly, when I'm thinking about the end of the year, a lot of times the strategic, practical part of myself really, that bulb clicks on. And I'm thinking about, and I have done this in the past. Matter of fact, I would encourage you. You can go back in time on our YouTube or our website. And you can go back in time and you can look at some of the things that I've talked about. Those things are still relevant for the end of the year, getting ready for January. Because what is January? Well, it's the close number 2 month. September is really the number 1, but January is almost as good as September because you don't really have to talk people into thinking about change, thinking about their life, or any of those other things. But as we were closing out this year, I felt like it was a little bit more important to focus on some other things that I feel like I'm seeing come up for people coming up from for coaches. And that's why what I'm going to talk about for the next few weeks, which is going to be very applicable for you as a coach, it's also going to be very applicable for your clients. Matter of fact, we have advanced skills training coming up on December 2nd and 3rd. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. But our advanced skills training is all about breakthrough. And some of the questions that I get every now and then is, well, how do you help somebody who's got limiting beliefs? How do you actually go after those things? How do you create new beliefs? What kind of support does someone need in that? Where do you look? What kinds of questions that you ask? All of that other stuff. It's actually what I cover in advanced skills training. But what I am going to give you is some things that are along the lines. This is not exactly what we cover in advanced skills training, but what I want to walk you through over the next few weeks. You guys have probably heard me mention every now and then that a lot of people have undisciplined minds, that they're not even aware of what is going on in here. And so, what I want to really talk about over the next few weeks is how do we actually begin to discipline our minds so that we start to get the kind of lives that we want to live. If I gave you a whiteboard on this, and I know that I've shown it to jumpstart coaches, I know that I've shown it for boot camp coaches and stuff like that, but let me just recap for those of you who have never heard me talk about this before. See, where most people live in their life let's say that this is where you are right now. This is where you are. This is where you are living. But let's say that you wanted something more in your life. Let's say that this crown represents the you of you in the future. Most people are never going to, and let's say that this is you in the future, but this is your potential. This is what you could be. This is what you could be. But most people we know are never going to achieve their potential. We know that. Well, one part of that I would say is that I think our potential is infinite. So the reality is that none of you are ever going to reach your potential because you are infinite and there's always more, right? I really believe that. But having said that, most people will not come into what was even reasonably possible for their life, what their potential is. And this is the reason why. Because in most thinking that people have in their life, if I had you at age 0 all the way to, let's just say, age 75, because it's easy to kind of get there. And let's say that we had, age 10 here, we had age 18, we're going after significant years. 25, we're going to say 30s, then we come over here and we're in our 40s, we're in our 50s, we're in our 60s, and then beyond, 70s on up. Where most people are in their life, there's a certain amount of growth and there's a certain amount of understanding and development that starts happening that actually levels off about right here. It's age 8. That's where, and I'm not saying that people are immature. What I'm saying is that a lot of the things in your brain, a lot of the things in your wiring and everything else is pretty much done by age 8. So there's a lot of things in values, a lot of things that you like to be affirmed for, a lot of the ways that you feel love and connection and all kinds of different things. Well, that stuff's pretty much affirmed, is in place by the time you're age 8. That means that you also have certain fears. You have certain things that you avoidances. There's a lot of different things that kind of come along, but a lot of that stuff's pretty hardwired by the time you're age 18. If this is what your ultimate potential is, you kind of have this thing that is in that development stage, but you also have another thing that kind of starts taking place as well. And what I would call this is that I would call this growth from the standpoint of, well, what you can do is that you can level up your knowledge. So I would call this the knowledge curve. Okay. So knowledge starts taking off and you get to 18 and you might get to like 25. And it does not mean that you won't learn things for the rest of your life. You will. You'll have a little bit. And you know what that knowledge will allow you to do? Get a better job, maybe. And a lot of times for most people, it's not a significant learning or significant skill change that is attained. So most people are pretty much where you were in your 40s is what kind of money you're making for the rest of your life, for the most part, with a few blips here and there. Doesn't mean that some people don't make investments, longer term investments, but generally speaking, that people, you're going to see what happens in people's income is also what ends up happening in their life as well, which is pretty much this. It's pretty much a straight line until you're in your 70s. I mean, potential was way up here, but it's pretty close to a straight line because your thinking doesn't deviate and change that much. Your beliefs don't really think and deviate that much over your life. The only thing that might change is, again, you might have a certain, and I would say that maybe your how much money you make or whatever can influence your potential in some kind of a way, right? It also, if you learn some things, yeah, that can influence your potential. But you can see that you pretty much level up. Matter of fact, about age 18 going on towards your potential, what you are capable of doesn't change a heck of a lot. Because I want you to understand that as we're looking at this thing, is that really where people are at is that they have certain, and that's why I said these things get hardwired. They have certain thoughts, or we could say certain thinking, and then they have certain actions that they take. And this is what actually levels them out. It's not knowledge or anything else. It's that our thinking and our actions don't change a ton. Does somebody's work ethic change a little bit? Yeah, some habits can kind of change. You might think differently about something or whatever, but certain things that you like, dislike, avoid in your life, you pretty much avoid your entire life. There's different kinds of things. And you know what? We avoid the hard stuff, we avoid confrontation, we avoid anything that makes us uncomfortable. Many cases, you guys have the same kinds of friends that you had your entire life because your thinking hasn't changed a whole lot. You might have changed certain aspects of your life, but they weren't enough to get you to your potential in many cases. Might be some preferences in life might have changed, different kinds of things that you eat, different kinds of clothing or whatever. But the reality is it wasn't enough, it wasn't in the potential realm. It was more just kind of like opinions and preferences and some of those things. So that what we have for the most part is thinking and actions, thinking and actions, thinking and actions, thinking and actions. Your thoughts and your actions that you have today are getting you what you have today, which also stands to reason that if our potential is actually up here, what could be and what you really want, if we're reasonable about this, you know what that means is that we have to agree that up here is what we would say is higher level thinking, which also produces higher level actions. I used this example in our life coach certification course just the other day when I was training coaches. That let's say that you wanted to be Elon Musk. Not saying anything about him and character wise or anything else, but we'd say that for the most part, what is he? Is he the richest person, in the world right now, or richest American or whatever? Like, I don't know where he's at, but it's not really the money that's made him. It's that he thinks differently, right? He thinks on genius level, and he's got his hands involved in a lot of different things. Someone who just last week saw a rocket take off, 30 miles from us, and he's the person who is to thank for that. Well, probably if he looked at your situations, certain things in your life, you'd probably agree that he thinks and he acts differently about a lot of different things that we think are impractical for our life. Like most of us are probably not thinking, one day I want to have my own company and launch rockets into space. Probably most of us are not thinking. Not knocking anybody. I'm just saying that most of us don't really think in those terms or even think that it's in the realm of possibility. We would probably do this. You know what we would do? We'd probably look in our bank account and we'd say, based on the bank account and how much money and time I have, that's not even in the realm of possibility. And I'd argue that someone like Elon Musk would not be limited by our bank accounts, would not be limited by our thinking about our bank accounts and what was possible or whatever. This is what we're talking about, is that potential gap. And if we want to have different lives, then we've got to start getting into that gap. But how do we do that? Well, we're going to talk about how we can begin doing that. And I think that it starts in a big way in really capturing the thoughts that you're having right now so that you can have new ones that can get you in line with that potential. Okay. So let me say hello to a couple of people really quickly that are saying hello to me. There's Ebony from the DMV, Shomir from Atlanta, and looks like somebody's trying to put crap on YouTube. So hopefully we can kind of get that stuff blocked in a second. So cool. Just wanted to say hello on there. Let me jump back in. So how do we begin to do that? Well, here's how we do it. First off, I believe that where we have to look is that we've got to consider right now what kind of thinking we have right now because it's habitual. Almost 100% of your thinking right now, you've already thought. You've thought before, you thought the day before, you thought the day before that, you thought the day before that. Because I showed you on that little timeline thing, you've been thinking what you've been thinking, and you've been fearing what you've been fearing, and you've been thinking about yourself and all kinds of different, and you've been thinking about the world the same for a really, really long time. And it's not that thinking the same thing is bad. What we have to understand is that we keep having the same thoughts, and it's not really getting us anywhere. Very little of what we think is actually new. And we have to understand, though, that the same old thoughts are what produce the same old fruit. And again, not all of it's bad, but if you want something new, you've got to have new thinking. So it's not just the thoughts, it's our habits of what goes into thinking. Like we have habits for everyday life. You have certain habits about sleep, you have sleeping habits, you have eating habits, you have working habits, you have procrastination habits, you have avoidance habits, you have pursuit habits, different kinds of things that you're looking for that make you feel good, all of this stuff. We have a lot of habits in our life every day. And what comes along with that is the fact that all of us have habits of thought, not just what we're thinking, but how we go about thought in our everyday life. And so, what we've got to do to begin this process is that you've got changing your thinking really begins with awareness, the awareness of what we're thinking. And most of us are actually unaware of what our thinking really consists of. We don't know the thoughts that are driving us in many cases. So every now and then, if you show up in your life and you're like, I don't know why I did that. Well, if you were aware of your thoughts, you probably would know exactly why you did that. And so in many cases, we don't know the thoughts that are driving us, and we're producing fruit in our life that we're not really happy with. And so we've got to grow in awareness of these kinds of things. A lot of times, we don't even know where a negative cycle started. Have you ever found yourself? What do I mean by a negative cycle? You ever found yourself in a funk? You ever found yourself in a funk for days? You ever found yourself thinking negatively for hours on end? Have you ever found yourself thinking negatively for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever? You ever found yourself in the middle of that spot? Do you even know where it began? Most people don't. Most people don't even know when it began, how it began, what was the first thought. Imagine if you could know the first thought that created a momentum for all of this negative thinking. Well, that's what we're really talking about. How do you begin to do that? Well, here's the thing. One place that we begin to look is understanding that sometimes thinking dictates your emotions, but more often emotions dictate your thinking. And probably a lot of you don't even realize that, but did you know that a lot of times you wake up and you're in a particular state, you have a particular predominant emotion that you're feeling, and you don't have discipline in your life? And you know what you end up doing? You end up and you're like, man, I just woke up and I'm in a terrible funk today. Like, what the heck is going on? And because you do not do anything in that moment, what ends up happening is that your brain is your adversary sometimes, because your brain is a brilliant, brilliant computer, but it's not really that smart. And so, what it has done your entire life, especially up to age 8, this is why things don't really change, is that your programming has been defaulted in you for a really, really long time. Garbage in, garbage out when you were a kid. And you didn't really discern very much. You didn't really filter much because you didn't have a filter. So, for a very long period of time in your life, you know how you lived? Garbage in, garbage out. And you trusted your emotions to help you make decisions on what felt safe, what did not feel safe, all of those other kinds of things. You literally were guided by, in many cases, how you feel. So we've learned to be very, what I would say, sensual kinds of people. And I don't mean in a sexual way. I mean sensual in that emotions dictate what we believe is true. What feels right is what we go with. And so we are literally destroying people right now in this society right now by trying to validate emotions over and over and over again. When the reality is that we have to understand that there's a lot of different things that are going on that create the emotions that we have. And some of it is just, hey, you know what? It's what I've been eating. It's my diet. It's a lack of exercise. It's what's actually in the food that I am eating. It's in the fact that I haven't been sleeping. I haven't been taking care of my body. It's that, oh, I worked really, really hard and I was up and going, going, going. And then I had a major lull that kind of hit because your body's trying to respond and it feels like a real downer or whatever. And so here's what happens is that because your brain is already programmed, what your brain's going to do, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you process in real time. That's what our conscious mind, this is what we've got to become. If we do not capture the thoughts that we are having, if we don't stop, you know what ends up happening is that your brain keeps coming up with all kinds of reasons. Like if you wake up, have you ever noticed that if you wake up in the morning and you feel like life sucks, do you ever notice that your brain is like your biggest adversary and it starts listing off all the reasons why you feel like you do, giving you every valid reason of why you should just stay in bed or quit or give up or or you're a fake, you're a phony, you're an imposter, no one really cares, you've not been a success, your kids don't respect you, your spouse doesn't respect you, your family doesn't love you, your boss is thinking about, we'll go down the list. And this is what happens. This is where a lot of people actually live. And if some of you are honest, some of the people who are listening right now, it's where you live. See, again, sometimes thinking dictates your emotions, but more often emotions dictate your thinking. And so, whether it's your thoughts or emotions that go first, one of the things that I would say, you wake up in the morning, you're in a funk, certain point of the day, you feel something that comes up. And instead of trying to figure out what is wrong and leaving it to your brain, you know what that can be? Is that your emotions in the past have not served you very well because it should cue you. This is what happens is that emotions, when we feel them, are a cue. And they're a cue, and instead of and if we have great emotions, then we usually make really positive decisions and we have great activity and actions and we're productive and everything else. See, when we have negative ones, what ends up happening, it depresses. And I'm not saying depression, I'm saying it depresses us, it holds us down, and we don't move forward. Like guilt is one of those emotions. If you feel that, you don't want to do anything. You don't feel like you can do anything. You don't feel right about doing something. See, this is what emotions do to us. They either suppress us in our actions, or they will really support us and actually, you know what, sometimes when you feel really great, you can get a lot of stuff done. But what we have to understand is that whatever emotion that we are feeling that is negative, that is not contributing towards our potential, that is the moment where we have to be aware and say, oh, there's a cue and it's got to cue me differently. See, what usually people do is that when they have a negative emotional cue, you know what they do? They quit. They go into all kinds of reasons for why their life sucks, and they kind of stop everything. They stop activity. They stop what they're doing or whatever that could actually help them. And we've got to use those same cues to do something different in our life. It's the same cue, but what I need to do is I need to actually do something with the cue because the emotions are actually telling me something, right? So what we have to understand is that our old habit, again, we're talking about an undisciplined mind here. Our old habit is to emote, it's to feel something, and then leave it to the brain to figure out why we feel like we do. And the brain will never reason in your favor. You've got to understand this. You got to know this. If you leave it to your brain, if you leave it to the subconscious and everything else, the brain is going to try to find the thing that is the most painful in your life and make you feel that emotion negatively, and you can't get past it. It's not your friend. That subconscious, that old programming, everything else, it is not your friend. And so what that means is that we've got to change this old habit, feeling stuff and then leaving it to the brain to figure it out. Here's what we've got to do instead. The new habit has got to be that you feel the emotion and then you capture the thought. Because the reality is that there is a thought behind the emotion. You can ask this question of yourself. Next time you get in the funk, what is the thought that I'm having right now? I'm not going to reason with things. I'm not going to say that the thought that anything is valid, but I think that in many cases, the thinking that is sabotaging us in our life and is stopping us, we're not aware of it. So, how can we begin to capture it? Well, I have the emotion. Is there a thought that's around this? Before this goes any further in my day, can I capture it? It's probably a statement. It's probably a sentence that you can form with the thought. And now you start finding out what you really believe and what your programs are. Because it's a program that's running many of you, and it's been running you for a really, really long time. And if you can capture this thing and you can capture it in sentence form, then what we can do is that we can actually start battling against it, and we can do something different. I'm going to give it to you in real simplistic terms. Here's how you do it. You choose the thought that you'd like to replace the negative thought with. See, we get to choose. See, a thought is not valid because you're feeling it. You understand that? We think in most cases that a thought is valid because, well, I felt it and I felt like crap, so it must have been crap. No, it's not that at all. You're allowing your emotions to dictate to you what truth is and what is valid in your life. At any point in your life, even if listen, if we went back in time and your parents said terrible things to you, you know, you had somebody who was mean to you, someone who scarred you, said something terrible about you or whatever. You know that at any time that you want, you can change that. Like, I can take my own word over someone else's. Do you realize that you can do that? You realize that you can take your own word over any voice that has spoken to you in your life. And it's whatever is the greatest voice, the most valid voice that you affirm as most valid in your life is the voice that ends up speaking to you. And so a lot of times these thoughts, usually I can probably find an original, a voice where it came from, or it might come from a circumstance, or it might come from something that happened to me or whatever. And so a lot of time, or some kind of a painful experience or whatever. And so I can go back and I can really capture that thought. And I can usually, in many cases, find out what I was thinking or whatever. You know what I can do? I can go back into that memory and I can see that memory in any way that I want, in a positive light. And I mean, not like that I'm not trying to fool myself. I can go back to any childhood experience as myself as an adult and go back and look at myself and assess myself completely different in that situation if I want to. But what has to happen along the way right now is that we have to have, instead of our cues sending us on a downward spiral for an entire day, we have to have our cues say, here's what I'm going to do, respond. I'm going to enforce a new habit because as an act of my will, I can capture this thought. Once I capture the thought, now I have to start enforcing. This is the new habit. I have to enforce the thought that I want to have. And so we have a lot of different thoughts that we have right now. You know, why does everything have to go wrong? Why, when I finally get all of my financial situation together, that this has to happen? You know what people are saying when they say that? They're telling their beliefs. They're communicating an undisciplined mind. It's an old habit. I could look at my situation really differently. I have a million different options to look at any kind of thing. I could say anything that I want about any situation, and it would be just as true and valid as anything else. You know why? Because what is objective reality? None of us have it. Well, you know what we all have? We all have a lens based on whatever we're seeing in our life at any given time. We all choose to see things how we want to see it. The other day, I was talking to someone, and they were talking about how no one wanted to hang out with them. You know, I've been I've been around, I've been around all these people. No one wants even to hang out with me. No one wants to hang out, talk, anything else. And I'm like, I said, well, you can choose that lens if you want it, but there's probably 100 different other ways that you could look at that actually would not make you like in so much pain. It could actually move you forward. Like, what are the possibilities that, hey, all these people are in a habit in a rut in their life, and they need somebody to initiate some things when it comes to relationship. They need to be asked instead of saying, I need somebody to ask me to go hang out. Nobody calls me, nobody asks me to go hang out. Maybe I could say something like, you know what, there's a lot of loneliness. If you looked at the stats, there's a lot of loneliness, there's a lot of disconnection that's going on in the world. Maybe I'm here to start initiating some of these things. Listen, there's going to be somebody, right? It all depends on how you want to think about it. It's just amazing to me that we can always think for some reason in the most painful ways about our life and our situations and everything else. But that's an undisciplined mind. That's someone who already thinks that in another situation. I can guarantee you, because that's not a new thought. You hear anybody say anything negative about their life, I could guarantee you I can find that same story somewhere else. I can find that same lens operating somewhere else. This is what's true for every one of you. You don't just in one particular context have something negative to say or have negative self-talk or whatever. I guarantee you I can find it somewhere else, because people have that story on repeat because their thinking is on repeat. Once you know what the emotional trigger is, you can use the new thought that you'd like to form. Because here's the thing, is that everything's just a cue, right? Everything in life as far as a habit is just a cue. We need to change the cue. So now what I can do, and I'll tell you what I do. I had a boot camp a couple of weeks ago. When I do a boot camp, I do work very, very hard. Just so you guys know, it's easy in the moment to talk hours and hours and hours and hours. And then come Monday, I'm like toast. Like it finally hits you. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but for every hour you speak, it's like 8 hours of work in your body. That's what I've heard. So if I do a boot camp, it's quite literally like, I've put in 100 hours over a weekend, which wouldn't even be possible, right? It's 75 hours in total in an entire weekend, right? Give or take a couple of hours. So what I'm saying is that I worked more hours than was even available over a weekend. And when that Monday rolled around, I woke up and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" But I knew what was happening. That emotional funk, that emotional low, I'd felt it in previous times in my life years ago. And you know what I would usually do? Man, I'm in a funk. I'm depressed. I'm going to be like this for days until my body got back in shape. But I recognized it for what it was. It was because of so much output. Man, I woke up and I went, woo, man, I am in a funk this morning, but I'm not going to be for long because I know what this is. This is a cue that I need to get moving. This is a cue that my body's telling me a lot of me was taken out. So what can I do to give back to my body? And you know what I did? I got out of bed. I put on some sporty clothes, and I walked out of my house and I went on a really long walk all the way to the gym. And I did a routine that morning. And then I walked all the way back. And you know what? I turned the corner and all of that stuff changed because I recognized what the cue was. In the past, that cue would have destroyed me. These days, I know what to do with it. This is what we're talking about, is that having a disciplined mind means that I have to begin capturing the thoughts. Capture the thoughts because I'm going to have emotional cues. And in the past, they've done something to me, but now I'm going to initiate that these cues mean other things. It's all about renaming the meaning. Now I have different meaning out of it. And now you know what that also means? It means that I'm going to act differently because I've done the work to actually capture these things. Hope that was helpful for you guys. Hey, for those of you who have already, and this isn't for everybody, but for those of you who have gotten trained and certified as a coach already, you guys who already have your CLC with us, we have advanced skills training that's coming up December 2nd and 3rd. Advanced skills training is all about breakthrough. Now, we go into even more detail on our website about that and what all that looks like, but it's a different kind of training in and of itself. What we try to do is honestly, it's over 10 hours of live interactive training. And we go to the source of belief systems, and you learn a strategy for how you can help your clients overcome limits and maximize their potential. And there's a lot of different things that really what we're going to cover can really help you. The sticking places, like bad money beliefs, like imposter syndrome, like perfectionism, like self-sabotage, like lies that people tell themselves, like I'm not enough, or irrational fears, like some of you might have. No one would ever pay me to do what I love. All of these kinds of things is what we're really going to show you how to navigate and help your clients get breakthrough. And as a matter of fact, what we do in this training is a little bit different. Like, it's not about a bunch of motivation. It's not just about me speaking. What we do when we go in on a Friday night is that I show you the science of belief systems. How do they actually form? Where does all of the things that you are, where does it come from? Where do your primary drivers come from? Where do your triggers come from? All of those different things. We understand scientifically, where does this come from? And not only where does it come from, how does it actually influence your behavior? And and ultimately, how do you actually change those? That's what we do on a Friday night. All day Saturday is all us going through tools to help you put those things put those things together to actually help people. And so, like for you in your life, these tools are actually going to help you, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to utilize the tools when you use them on yourself. And so what you can expect is in this training is that some of you are going to get breakthroughs in your life. While at the same time that you're going to really feel confident to really help pretty much anybody, you're going to walk away and you're like, I just got breakthrough this weekend. So it's a normal thing to see coaches walk away and some of the thought processes that they walked in there with, that they change over the course of a weekend. So some of the other things that you're going to learn is how to pinpoint a client's limiting beliefs, brain hacks to remove barriers and self-sabotaging systems. How do you help a client grow in self-worth, eliminate procrastination, conquer irrational fears? One of the things that you will learn is a formula to unlock maximum potential. So when we're talking about that up there, we actually have a formula that really shows you how you can actually work with clients and help them accomplish that. Now, everything that's included in this particular weekend is obviously it's a 10 plus hour live training. It's streamed um, uh, through to any mobile device or any kind of device that you have over Zoom. You're going to get breakthrough tools, because what I'd say is what happens after the event is actually more important than what happened at the event. And you're also going to get replays. You're going to get all those things, but you're going to earn a new credential, which is a certified professional coach credential. And so, what does that mean for you? Well, I think that ultimately it means more ability to help people, but it also means more marketability for you. So, yes, professional coaches do make more. They usually make about twice as much as first or second year coaches on average. That's what the industry says. The cost of this is a steal. It's only $247, but we do have an early bird rate of $227 if you enroll by Friday. Now, again, this is only for people who have completed certification. Like, you've actually earned your credential through us, then that means that you can enroll. Please don't try to enroll if you have not completed your credential, because you know what, you'll be completely lost. So there's no point in us starting at that place, because it's way too high level and you'll be completely lost and not know what you're doing. But you do have opportunity right now to knock out your training and certification before December 2nd and 3rd. And you can do that through Jumpstart. Jumpstart includes every one of our programs except advanced skills training. You get the life coach certification course, you get boot camp, you get our coaching product launch blueprint, you get brand camp, all of these different things, but you also get live training that happens on Tuesdays. Tuesdays, I'm walking everybody through certification right now. Starts at 5 p.m. We're going through in the rolling session. So we go through every one of these sessions: foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, and how to establish a growing coaching practice. All of these sessions include live Q&As, and we also have live coaching demos, so you can role play with other people. the boot camp and the next one that we're going to be doing is actually going to be in January. So those of you, but you can watch boot camp in terms of the replay sessions if you're a part of Jumpstart. Brand Camp is 13 hours of training. I walk you through step by step with plenty of tools: how to wireframe a website, how to SEO your website, how to write an email, how to write a sales page, all of that. We bring you through step by step so that you have powerful branding and messaging on all of your marketing stuff. We also bring you from zero. Like, if you have no idea who you even want to work with, or what your coaching practice is going to be about, or what coaching product that you could put together, we bring you through brainstorming all the way up to launch. It's eight sessions, and we give you all the tools to be able to do that. A pre-launch sequence, as well as coaching. I'd say funnels, lead magnets, all of those other things. It's all included inside the Coaching Product Launch Blueprint. You get all this for $97 a month. You would normally pay probably 10 grand a month for this. We also have a live group coaching call where you can join the coaches who are developing their practices right now. We always celebrate wins. That community is dynamic. They're amazing. And you don't have to do this thing alone. So not only do you have the tools, because I understand that how-to is really important: training, certification, all the steps to build your business, and a community that rallies around you. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. And so those of you who have not gotten trained and certified, there's nobody who's offering this. Go do the research. Go look at how much certification normally costs, with no golden ticket to get clients. Just simply a certificate. Look at what most people are doing out there, and it's putting people in a hole, and they don't know how to get clients. We cover all of those bases, and we don't allow you to do it by yourself. So I'm inviting you. Listen, 2022 is over with. Some of you thought that you're already going to be trained and certified and have a business or whatever. Well, the year's over with. So what we look forward to right now is that if you can knock this out now, you get just enough time to knock it out so that you can be in the driver's seat for January, which is a no-brainer month for people to work with coaches. The link to this is inside the description. The link to Advanced Skills Training, for those of you who are alumni, who are watching tonight, you can get enrolled in that. There is a payment plan for Advanced Skills Training. I believe it's $75 a month for 4 months, and you can make that happen. So cool. Let me say hello to anybody who's saying hello on here. Yeah, I love what Shannon said on here. She says, before the emotion comes up, halt it and realize your past doesn't define you. Change that negative thought into positive: rainbows, beautiful sunsets, etc. Awesome. Shomir says, that's a thought I need to change for real. A thought is not valid because I think it. Absolutely. Hey, there's Sandy from New Jersey. Hey, Sandy. There's Dr. Clarissa. Hey, how's it going? Very good. Awesome. Sierra knocked out her certification. So good. I love it. Awesome. And Harvey says, yes, Jumpstart does get you completely started in business. Well, hey, does anybody, hopefully this was really good for you guys. And if you would, like this post if it was really helpful for you, and you might share it to somebody else that you think that, whether they're going to become a coach or not, this might be really beneficial and helpful for them. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts before I head out? I know I'm 30 seconds ahead of you guys, and it is 6 o'clock. So it's a good time to peace out. Hey, there's Tamala from Dallas. Hey, Tamala. Well, awesome. Well, and Shanna says no questions. Well, let me just recap just one thing, and then I'm out of here. Advanced Skills Training, we were talking about it for those of you who have already gotten trained and certified. This is a time we only offer it 2 times a year. So this is the second time. We did it sometime earlier in the year, and we won't offer it again until May of next year. So December 2nd through 3rd, all of these things that we're going to be covering: pinpointing a client's limiting beliefs, brain hacks to remove barriers and self-sabotaging systems, help your clients grow in self-worth, eliminate procrastination, conquer irrational fears, and learn a formula to unlock maximum potential. You get the 10 plus hour live training. You also get replays to that training as well. We give you breakthrough tools because, again, what happens after the event is more important than what happened at the event. And also, you earn an upgraded credential. You'll earn your certified professional coach credential. And not only is that going to increase your proficiency and help you help more people, well, it's also going to make you more marketable. The price is a steal. It's only $247. I know some of you want to think about it because you're like, well, December is so far away. Well, you can save a little bit of money if you enroll now. It's only 227, but it'll be 247 after Friday. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.